Hello and welcome to another episode of Ashley Haden's Political Breakdown, a show where I talk about the news with people. It's utterly pointless, but some people may enjoy it. This week my guests are
Tommy Jolowitz
and
Charlie Redwood.
Fantastic. Now, let's start with the first piece of news of the week. According to the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development and the High Pay Centre think tank, FTSE 100 bosses will be paid more within 3 working days of 2020 than the average employee's annual wage. So this is FTSE 100 executives starting work on the 2nd of Jan would already have been paid more by the close of play on Monday the 6th over the average wage of 29,559. So that is like 117 times more that they're worth than the average Joe Blocks. Is this right? Is it wrong? Is there a way of solving it?
I for one, I think I'm appalled that senior executives aren't paid more. Because they're fundamentally better.
I'm sure they work very hard.
And are worth more to society than the average person.
I want everyone to know that I know Charlie is trying to come across as ironic, but he's not being ironic at all. He truly means
deep-seated
this.
hatred for the average man coming through.
So,
it's not ideal.
Yeah, but what is it? What is there to do about it? Because is it going to be more transparency? Should FTSE 100 bosses be forced to explain why they're worth so much more than the average? Because they're going to be making something like the average of FTSE 100 chief execs is like 3.64 million they get paid a year.
So, I mean, is a lot of this just because of general ignorance on my part? Is this down to sort of their actual salary, or is that bonuses
included? No, this
included?
is salary.
This is just salary. Yeah, that would seem a little out of whack, I guess, to say the least, if they're earning that much more in that shorter period of time.
Well, is it the same?
It makes sense to shareholders, though, right? Because ultimately, a large organisation's goal is to generate value for shareholders. Shareholders, if the company is growing and they're getting their dividends, they have no issues with approving, and at board level, they have no issues approving massive salaries for key figures who supposedly are behind that growth. So you can see how it happens, but nowhere is it in a shareholder or a board member's interest to ensure that ratio between senior executive pay and the average is more equitable.
But is it in the countries?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, it's a trend that's been happening since the 1970s, right?
Yes.
That wages have been stagnating relative to growth of GDP for an awfully long time.
So like they say that the average salary in the UK is, as I say, 29,559. Now,
I aspire to that personally.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would be lovely for everyone. But if that's the average, and we see that there are people who are earning so much more, as I say, 117 times more, that's suggesting that the actual average, if we take away the richest of society, then the actual average wage of what people are earning is much less than this 29,000, because that's an inflated number. It's like saying the average age of turtles is 500 when you've only got 2 turtles. One of them's 500 and the other one's fucking whatever the other number would to make that work. I'm not doing the maths for everyone. I'll be honest. You can do it yourself.
That masterful analogy aside, I think perhaps it's time to have policies, or even put it in law, transparencies about pay across an organisation. You know what your boss makes, you know what the person.
Well, that's coming this year,
and that speaks to gender pay equality and all sorts of other issues that have been in the public forum recently.
There's another issue maybe tied up in this, the fact that how much onus is there on governments sort of say this is what the market dictates for what somebody should earn, and this is the value that a particular market places on a particular role and a particular function?
I mean, that's the football argument, isn't it? You've got these millionaire rapists who go around all the time.
Exclusively rapists,
yeah.
yes.
Exclusively, that's what they do. It's well known that's all of their hobbies.
Yeah.
Who are paid extortionate amounts
GHB.
for doing a hobby. And the argument for why they get paid so much is, well, the money's there. You see the inflation of just from football, how it's grown from someone just like 20, 30 years ago. You had the first ever £1 million player, and now you've got people who are £200 million just a transfer, and then they're earning fucking 600 grand a week type of thing. So you see the inflation going, but that's because there's the money there. Is that the same argument with the FTSE 100, that they're making so much money now that they can afford to give this money to the people who they... And this is the problem with it. They say, oh, well, it's because of this person. They're going, well, like, if you're looking at banks or everything else, oh, it's not, though. You're the head, but you're not working everywhere, are you? You're not doing all of the
I imagine
jobs.
there could be more onus on companies like this to maybe put in place outreach programs. I know a lot of... there's a little bit of devil's advocacy going on here. I know for a fact that a lot of big commercial law firms have very, very widely respected pro bono schemes where they do go to ground level and help people out. I don't know if there's more scope for other institutions to maybe have better outreach. I don't know.
I mean, with regards to devil's advocate, don't. It's
okay.
Don't do. Yeah. I mean, like, say the other side. There's no problem with that. But the devil's the bad guy.
Yep.
I mean, it's one of the things that annoys me a lot. I'm just playing devil's advocate. The devil was a prick. I mean, you may as well call it the fucking prick's proclamation. But that's besides the point. The argument that you make is...
I'm simply the advocate.
That's an album title.
I'll simply be the advocate.
But you're...
Is that your next hour?
No, it's thank you, fuck you, bye. Is the next hour.
Better.
But I know that, like, law firms, as you say, they are doing a lot of pro bono work. Nowhere near enough, but that's another argument about legal aid and the fact that you've got the amount of people who are defending themselves is going up constantly because legal aid has been cut and they're having to defend themselves because there's no one else to do it. So these multi-millionaires can say, oh, I'm doing some work here for pro bono. You're like, well, congratulations, mate, but there isn't enough. But that's a fundamental issue on the government more. Don't know where I was going with that.
Well, it's a bit to tack onto it briefly. Essentially, it's the argument about regulation versus deregulation. That's been the fight between right and left for quite a while now, right? So the Conservatives and neoliberalism in particular is in favour of less and less regulation in the marketplace to encourage growth, and the left has wanted to. The language is never to squash growth, but to give more labour rights to encourage the right kind of behaviours in the market, and that's been in flux for generations. So.
Well, I mean, like inequality, the growth in inequality affects many other different facets of society as well. Like you've seen from research that if you've got a more inequality in a society, then you actually see a growth in the belief in meritocracy, which is very strange. But you tend to find that if there's more inequality, then people think, oh, well, you get what you deserve more, which is flawed in my opinion, because you tend to find the poorest people go, oh, well, they've obviously earned it. And
the alternative is so disgusting, it's so horrible, so disgusting that you might be there out of no fault of your own, and that life has just shat on you from a great height.
Well, at least that would be a bit more honest
to
about
face.
it.
Yeah, but if you're living right on the poverty line, if life is a daily struggle for you to feed yourself and your kids, what's the alternative? I think that's why, the religion is so prominent and is such a useful tool, because it's easier to accept, the fantasy than it is to grind through a life that is deeply unattractive and offers
the idea that it's just some sort of preordained fate.
Determinism helps.
Determinism.
It does. It's bollocks, but it has value, right? For some, I don't know.
Okay,
I don't have answers.
I don't know why I fucking offered you on then, I'll be honest. I mean, I was expecting at least to have some form of answer, but no, you come with fuck all, didn't you?
Were we expecting to solve the world's problems?
Or at least give it a fucking go, you useless fuck.
Better.
Jesus Christ.
We're looking to create problems.
My manifesto
problems.
is not for public consumption.
Well, with inequality, will it get better? And because you see places like Bolivia, Venezuela for a time where there was, you tend to find with populist governments over everywhere that one of the things that populist governments both on the left and the right do is they actually shrink inequality. Now there's many reasons for doing this, moving up minimum wage, especially in places like Bolivia, which is one of the poorest places. It was a lot easier to make inequality not as bad if you just go in and say, hey, we're going to pay you a small amount more. Like, oh, this is lovely across the whole board. And then you also got the argument of a brain drain. If the richest people leave, then inequality shrinks. So do you actually believe that we will ever get to a point where inequality will become more manageable, or are we past the realm of it actually being able to do?
Not in this country. I only see it getting worse. I think the reality is that the vast majority of Britain's GDP comes from London. The vast majority of London's wealth comes from financial services and international banking. Brexit is only going to squeeze that, with jobs going to Frankfurt. And elsewhere. I think it's only going to get worse until something catastrophic happens, or life just becomes. It's already unmanageable.
It would take some sort of I think some sort of seismic political event for there to be some kind of tangible improvement. I think
it's interesting you mentioned South American countries. I think like Costa Rica is a really interesting example. It's one of the highest literacy rates in Southern America. It's really pushed funding towards education. Their population is very highly educated across the board, and that raises so many people out of poverty and helps to reduce inequality. Not to be too Tony Blair, education.
Oh no, education is vastly important. I think Costa Rica could be a useful thing, but at the same time, you're looking at such a small number. I mean, what you've got in Costa Rica, maybe 500,000, a million. I don't know what's the population of Costa Rica.
Could be the new Costa Rica. I haven't a clue, mate.
Yeah,
it's small. It's small.
So it's easy to say like Finland came out the new leader.
Massive sovereign wealth as well. I mean, they've got so much bloody money stashed away.
Exactly, and so they're doing a 4-day week with 6-hour working days. It was looking as a potential add-on for Labour's manifesto, but their research found that a 4-day week across the board just wasn't workable. So what they were actually looking at is doing research into what particular sectors a 4-day week could work. Now, are you for a 4-day week, 6 hours? Working.
I mean, was the evidence against it purely insofar as a 4-day week simply isn't workable because not enough work is being done within 4 days?
Well, no, you tend to find that if you do a 4-day week, production does go up, but potentially there's just not enough people. If you're going to do a 4-day week, you think throughout everything, 4-day week, doctors, nurses as a prime example, you can't do a 4-day week. You can't do 6 hours in a 4-day week.
Within a sector like that, which relies on like immediacy and being able to access help immediately, no, that simply isn't workable.
And there isn't enough people. Same with teachers, any public sector, frankly, although MPs this year are going to be getting an extra month off.
Oh, that's nice.
Which is good for them. Jacob Rees-Mogg said that they need it.
Very hard.
Well, they're going to get 63 days off this year, not including the conference season and Christmas.
Well, lower league football.
We wouldn't want them to have unpaid leave now, would we?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
So, why do you think that Jacob Rees-Mogg has decided that they should get an extra month off? Is it just because he's cruel? Is it because he's ignorant? Is it because he loves fucking hamsters?
I think it's because his wife has taken him aside and said, "You've got to stop forgetting the names of your children. I think you need to spend more time with them." And
You're saying
also,
he
I'm
makes
not
up
making
Latin
any more. We're not doing it.
when he's like, well, he has to name it.
He remembers.
They go, you fundamentally need to spend more time with your progeny because you're just, you're a figure on the television at this point.
He remembers all the names of his children: 1us, 2us, 3us, 4us, 5us, and 6us. Ironically, one of them is correct. I mean, it shouldn't be.
1us, right? 'Cause that's, Latin.
Yeah. No, 6us.
Close enough.
6us, because he ran out of care for that one. Sixth child, called him 6us. It's not AS, BS, CS, or whatever the fucking Latin is for.
I feel
God,
like we're getting into biggus, dickus, and
God,
Brian
he's
territory.
a vile fucking prick.
We don't need to get into Latin ordinal numbers.
Anyway,
it always bullshit, isn't it? So they're already highly paid.
well, is it scrutiny? Is this what they're trying to do? Are they trying to limit the amount of scrutiny that can actually be held against the government? Because we're in a year that is going to be very difficult. I've already said that us as the populace do not need to see what's happening with the trade negotiations, what will be happening. They've already said that. And so now they're making to a point where even our own parliament is going to have less time to have a look at what's actually going on.
Well, obviously, I can understand the point of view that it strengthens negotiation position and to not be fighting in the press. So removing the exposure of the public and the House itself to the strategy and discussions around our position and our strategy for withdrawing from the EU, it can only enhance our ability to execute that plan. It's fundamentally it's a disturbing thing. Well, think about it. You don't if you know someone's hand in a poker game, it's a hell of a lot easier it's a lot harder to win that hand of poker.
Yeah, but this isn't poker though. I mean, it doesn't work.
It's a much more important game that we need to, if we're going to withdraw.
Yeah, but the EU knows our hand.
We have to. Well, to an extent.
No, to all of it. What do they think? What the fuck are we hiding? What has Boris Johnson and this country got? What are they going to bluff?
I don't know.
Exactly what are they going to bluff?
He's never saying exactly what he's thinking.
No, he's lying. He's not bluffing. This isn't the great fucking Machiavellian god in front of us here. This is a buffoon. This is what we've got. We've currently got a fucking clown in front of us, and you're going, yes, but he may have water in that bucket, and it's not glitter, it's shit. That's what he's fucking got in the bucket, mate.
He's written books and stuff. He's like really clever.
I don't give a fuck if he's written books. Dan Brown has written books. I'm not going to go there and go, this is one of the greatest pieces. Dan Brown's so fucking intelligent. Who knew that you could look at a different way for religion? Maybe God is a cunt.
And type.
I mean,
yes.
am I the only one who voted for Nick Hornby as my MP then? Or, no?
I didn't vote for your MP.
No.
just fiction writers in general. That's what I'm into. Even if they're not on the ballot.
I'm fascinated to know what you think that Boris Johnson is hiding.
So what, besides illegitimate children, plenty.
That's one side. But in this negotiation,
I haven't a clue. But I can understand their position, and that's certainly how they'll try and defend it. But my opinion is it's bullshit. We should have as much scrutiny as possible.
Transparency is a fun. Yeah, but I've heard lots of arguments that I know to be bollocks. It's just because you understand something. I know the words that they're saying. I know the definition of every word that they're saying, but this sentence is horseshit. That's what we're going. We need to be able to keep some cards behind us. Like, mate, everyone knows what they're doing.
How that negotiation works.
It's going to go badly. We're tiny. EU are massive. That's it. That's what's going to happen. We're going to say, we want this, and they're going to go, okay, then we want this. Well, we can't give you that because Boris. This is the thing with the. Brexit negotiations. What Boris Johnson doesn't want to do is admit that he gave away a deal that Theresa May said she wouldn't. He crossed the red lines to get this deal that everyone said, well, he's not going to be able to do renegotiation. I said it myself. He won't be able to renegotiate with the EU for a deal. He renegotiated for a deal. And so all the Brexiteers went, you're all fucking, you don't know what you're talking about. This is ridiculous. You ain't got a fucking clue. And if you actually look at the deal, it's worse than what Theresa May got. This is where we're at. And so we go, he managed to go to a deal. And a lot of us just went, well, we didn't think he would give away more. So what exactly is this blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fucking sexist shit stain of society, this fucking cum dump of a human being, is he hiding?
That's
what is
probably
he?
one of the nicest things anyone has ever said about him.
I don't think we need to be, name calling and bringing the fact that he's an Aryan into it. I mean, what have Aryans ever really done?
You're not answering the question, and I want you to answer the fucking question.
I don't have a clue. Yeah, I don't know. I highly doubt he's got any big cards that he's hiding behind his back that are somehow going to wrestle us into a favourable position. That's what's been said. But I'm
the only
very comfortable in the knowledge it's going to go terribly wrong. And life is going to be worse after we withdraw.
No, I'm sure the only thing in terms of like his political gameplay is either showing that there is some rhetoric to what he's saying, or withholding that rhetoric, and that is somehow going to strengthen his position. Like, he's a career politician first and foremost, and he will do and say whatever he can in order to strengthen his own position. So if he says there are cards to be withheld and he thinks that will help him, then he will say it. If he says there are cards to put on the table and that's going to help him, he will probably do that as well. He's actually quite similar to Trump in that respect. He will do or say anything he can to advantage his own position and tell any number of lies or slight mistruths to meet his own ends.
The only card he's hiding says, "I'm sorry for your loss." The only fucking card he's hiding. He's a vile fuck. And it's just a constant lies. At least now, we're going to get to a point where the people who voted for Brexit are going to have to fucking take responsibility. Because this week, what we've had votes on this week. Did you see the vote in Parliament?
Are you proposing public trials? How are we going to do? We're going to take
they just have to. No, they just have to take responsibility. Everything that happens now, it's on them. You can't say that there's a Remainer Parliament. You can't say that you can't get anything through. They've got a majority now that is a Brexit majority. Everything that happens now, all the negotiations and everything, is going to be on them. This is what they voted for. This is what they wanted. So be it a deal with the US. I mean, we already went over and tried to do a deal with Australia, who laughed at us. Did you see that this week with a Trade Minister, Simon Birmingham, came out and said that we're not going to do free movement with the UK because we're worried that there'll be a brain drain from Australia, and then a lot of, and this fucking beautiful. He said that there was a worry that unskilled British will come over to Australia into Sydney and Melbourne, and I went erect, mate. That was
at least he's not suggesting that Brits are going to take jobs off good, hard-working Australians. He's plain in the knowledge that ain't going to happen.
Absolute irony of the rest of the world turning into, no, we don't want the unskilled British coming over to us and taking our fucking benefits.
I didn't want to go to Australia anyway. Yeah. Not bothered, mate. Fine.
I mean, with a lot of people in this country, I'd send them to Australia, but just to the bits on fire. Fuck them. Absolutely.
Koalas in
fuck
particular.
them. Maybe that's what we can do.
We'll eradicate chlamydia. That'll be good.
Do free movement with Australia, but if you want to go over to there, you have to dress as a koala or a fucking kangaroo, so it doesn't look like we've lost that many different species.
Your luggage will be checked for flame retardant materials.
No, you just have to constantly eat fucking eucalyptus or bounce on a tail that we give you.
I thought eucalyptus, isn't that pandas?
No, bamboo's pandas.
Oh, bollocks. Is it? I'm not good at zoology.
Botany or
is it botany?
Arborology.
Yeah.
Well,
plants,
yeah,
mate.
yeah.
Not bothered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Entomology's insects, I know that.
Well,
is it?
Yeah.
This week, MPs have voted for a number of things on the EU withdrawal bill. It went through this week, so it's going to be going over to the House of Lords. Have we kept an eye on it? Do we know what they voted for? Have you done any research into news stories this week about anything of importance?
I'm pretty sure the crux of it is that we're going to be withdrawing from the EU. Is that not the answer you were looking for, Ash?
Sometimes I fucking hate doing this. Just do it on me fucking own, honestly.
I mean, that's
Right,
clearly
go on
what
then.
you want to be doing.
Let's see what news stories you lot have brought. Because there's some big news stories of this week. Let's see if you've covered any of them. Go on, Charlie. What's your first one?
Let's raise the tone, shall we?
Go on, then.
So, Greg's.
Yep. It's a serious podcast, isn't
Are
it?
going to save capitalism.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain. There's a fantastic article in The Spectator this week. Greg's have captured the zeitgeist with the vegan steak bake and the vegan sausage roll. Not only that, they've had produced a £7 million bonus, which equates to about £300 in pay for each one of their 25,000 employees. And this not only backs up the fact that, well, they're a FTSE 100 business, they're sizable, but they're doing good things for the planet, and also they treat their workers well. And there's a lot to be learned from the way Greg's are treating their employees. And I think that's actually a bit of good news. We can point to at least one FTSE 100 company that is treating people fairly and well and making a dent in a lot of the damage being done by other corporations.
So what are they doing then?
Well, it's encouraging veganism as part of making it part of the national conversation, selling more vegan food than pretty much any other business in the country.
Annoying Piers Morgan, which is always nice.
And pissing off Piers Morgan. They've probably got the same PR company. And treating their workers fairly, promoting them well, paying them well, giving them good benefits, predictable shift patterns, and giving them bonuses when things are going well. The shareholders got their dividends too, so everyone's happy. It's a good example of how it can and should work. Good news.
Okay.
Ha!
I mean, it's
There you go, mate.
there's
Something to be positive about.
there's
It's not
no
really the vibe of this
conversation to be had.
conversation.
I mean,
Well,
I could explain to you many different reasons why that's like a silver lining in a crock of shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But also, I tried a vegan steak bake this week. Bloody delicious. Glad I did.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to them. I hope they continue. They're meant to be working on vegan chicken slice as well at the moment, but they're not talking
Pizza
about
Hut
it.
will be bringing in pepperoni pizza. Apparently,
Is that a thing?
No, so it's going to be. It's either going to be a thing or is a thing. Can't remember. But pepperoni pizza. Watch this space.
So was it Burger King have a plant-based burger
that isn't vegan.
Because it's cooked on the same grill.
Well,
as
they
and KFC have been giving out chicken accidentally.
But wasn't their thing
fake chicken?
Isn't their
to
thing?
vegans.
But they've tried to defend it in such a way that no, we're only marketing it to flexitarians. That's ridiculous. Surely, even if you are marketing it to flexitarians, just cook it on a different fucking grill.
They're marketing it to the type of pointless cunt that looks at January and thinks, oh, I need to do something for attention. And so they do, I'm not going to drink, or I'm going to be vegan or vegetarian or something like this.
Going to appear on political podcasts.
Charlie's very valiantly drinking 0.5% alcohol beer.
Why are you dropping me in this?
It's valiant.
Are you not drinking this month?
I'm just not drinking in general. We'll see. It's starting with January. You just drop me in this. Yeah, I'm taking a step back from boozing.
Any reason why you've chosen this month?
No, it started before the new year.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's more to do with a generally problematic relationship with alcohol than any.
See, that's fine, mate. I mean, if you've got a problem with alcohol, don't drink it. I'm absolutely fine with that. I get that. More for me. I do have a problem with alcohol, but we both enjoy each other, so it's fine, But it's the people who grow a moustache in November, the people who give up drinking in January. There's no doubt Stoptober, that's another one, and all of this.
Veganuary.
These
January, I
fucking.
heard of
She's
recently.
dropped myself in it. That's something I did actually in October as well.
It's the type of people who require people to praise them to do anything good. I think that they're terrible human beings. Maybe yourself included.
Well, it's
I don't know.
Isn't it? It's not.
It's tedious. It's the same people who do the fucking ASL stuff, the ice bucket challenge. The idea that you need a challenge to do something good is shows that you don't actually care. It's only for attention. If you're just going to be good, then just be good. If you don't want to drink, then just don't drink. If you want to stop doing something, it's the same as fucking Lent. That's it. That's all you're doing. You're doing another form of fucking religion, but this time you've got a hashtag. That's it.
Well,
You're
it's the same-
whiny little fucknuts.
I've seen the same argument when talking about like secularism and religion and what value it has in the public sphere. And there are some people who say it gives a structure, a moral structure to life. And I'm thinking, right, if the only thing stopping you from going out and murdering a bunch of people or doing whatever the hell you want is like some ancient scripture and attending church once a week, you are an awful bloody person and you've got bigger problems. Well, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same argument, right? You need some form of gratification or some structure to encourage positive behaviour. Just don't be a dick.
Religion is going to heaven, and fucking all of this stuff, January and November and all of that stuff. All of that is likes and fucking retweets and all of that stuff, and that is the version of heaven that we have now to go viral at some fucking point.
That's how St. Peter judges your worth. It just looks at likes, dislikes, retweets.
You can suck me cock, mate. Your news story?
My news story, hopefully open a bit of a debate with this one. It's about snooker.
So
really mainstream.
I'm in a problem where
How come Greg's got the reaction and snooker's fine?
I love snooker.
Great. So should everyone.
But
great.
I'm not sure if this is something for this. So tell me the story.
I'll tell you the story. No, basically Barry Hearn has recently been defending the decision to have a snooker tournament in Saudi Arabia in October. The prize fund will be 2.5 million with £500,000 going to the winner. Essentially, the debate being, is it a form of sport washing for Saudi Arabia getting involved like they have done with Formula E and stuff
Spanish
like
football as well.
Golf recently, football, and lots of other sports.
Boxing,
I imagine are in boxing, Anthony Joshua and Reece, recently. Or could actually sport be a force for good in actually helping to improve the general situation with human rights issues because of opening Saudi Arabia up and therefore opening them up to different views on their worldview?
No.
It'll definitely improve the whole proxy war in Yemen situation.
Definitely.
That'll be gone overnight. It's a bit of sport.
Pot the red set, screw back, bomb Yemen.
Yeah.
I believe that's going to be the new Chaz and Dave song. No, it won't. It's all about sport washing. It's constant. It's the same.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's the same over in China when the NBA goes over to China for tours, and the coach of the Houston Rockets said something against China's lack of human rights, especially when it comes to Hong Kong, and China got rid of, no, we're not having you play anymore. And then you had all of the sports stars, all the NBA players, not defend the coach, but defend China.
Yeah.
They go, well, and this is what you're going to face with what happened with Anthony Joshua going over there, what's going to happen with snooker, everything else. They're going to end up defending Saudi Arabia because money. It's simple as that. NBA was the one that got me the most because you see a lot of the NBA players who take a big stance on politics in their country, in the US, and they're like, well, black people need to be treated better, which is 100% right. Everything they say in the US is always like fucking right on with what they're doing, and then they're so willing to allow China to kill fucking millions of people because there's money to be made there. They go, well, you have to be on one side or the other. Yeah. It's a shame that we're going to find soon. I promise you, Ronnie O'Sullivan is going to be coming out saying, "Mate, I don't even care. Women shouldn't be allowed to drive." That's what we're going to find.
I think that's a positive part of it being in Saudi Arabia is that I think a problem with snooker at the moment. There's so many women in the audiences. And, players are such sex symbols. They're just screaming, going mad all the time. It's impossible to focus on the game. Take it to Saudi Arabia, and, suddenly it's all men again in the audience, which is, that's great. And it's only going to improve the game.
But a promise of more female referees.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you like them apples?
Are they called referee? Are they referees in snooker?
Yes.
Is that the bloke with the gloves on?
Yes.
Or woman with the gloves on.
Person.
Yeah.
Person of no defined gender with gloves on.
I mean, I think they have a defined gender if they wish to.
They could be gender fluids knocking around.
Yep.
Yeah, it could be.
As long as they're
Not on the felt.
as long as they're cleaning the cue ball, it's all good.
Oh, yeah, as long as they keep an eye on the rules and make sure that they call fouls and misses.
Fouls, misses, yeah. As long as they're exercising due judgment. If they feel that a snooker has been attempted valiantly to be gotten out of, they don't call a miss. That's all good.
Yep. Absolutely fine. Okay, well, thanks for bringing that along. I'm very... I mean... It is an interesting... Is an interesting thing with regards to the whitewashing of Saudi Arabia, or the sport washing, sorry, of Saudi Arabia. But it's just because they've got so much money, and we're never going to get to a point until people actually start saying, "Hey, Saudi Arabia, stop bombing everywhere," where Saudi Arabia are going to change. This isn't. I mean, we see with the war, or the potential war with Iran. Saudi Arabia are on the American side. So all you're going to see there is more backing of Saudi Arabia because they're going to be using their power, their weapons that they purchased off of us to use that to fucking bomb.
That's a Shia Sunni thing, right?
Yeah. Kind of. There's lots like
Sectarian tensions.
Iran is an interesting look because they've spent so much time getting power via proxy in the Middle East, in Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, all of these countries, and Yemen as well. All of these countries, they've used money and influence, weapons to create to get as much control as they possibly can. Like Lebanon, they're aligned with Hezbollah, and Hezbollah basically have a veto in Lebanon, so anything that they want go, they do what Iran says. They move their stuff there. With Syria, Assad's dad was one of the only people to back Iran during the Iraq-Iran war back in the 80s, and so they still align now with the use of chemical weapons, everything else in Syria. Iran's still backing them. With Iraq, they worked with the people who are mostly in power in Iraq now in the Shia side, so they've got influence in there as well. I mean, they never fucking used to have, but now they do. This is what's happening, and they're not going to go to war in a conventional sense with the US, but a lot of innocent people in the Middle East are going to die, as we saw from the fucking accidental shooting down of the aeroplane this week. But, I mean, they've done better than Russia. At least they fucking admitted it now.
I had a Canadian bacon joke I was going to do.
Yeah.
I've lost interest in it. I for one am glad Iran are joining this war on Canadian bacon. Just admit it's not bacon, it's ham. I'm convinced they were serving it on board. Shot it down. I'm glad they're dead. Essentially, is what what I wanted to say.
I'm glad you didn't do that joke.
Oh shit! What have I done?
I know I say we don't edit, but maybe just for that, for one time, just to edit that out of me ever fucking hearing it. Good God in heaven.
Was that the line?
I know you love our work. It's fine.
Big fan. Big fan.
Big proponent of sketch comedy.
I love sketch. It's amazing. Real quality. Real high quality.
True
it is.
art.
That's the thing with
Art
sketch.
form.
They keep on saying. I know that other people say that it's some of the most tedious stuff you'll ever watch in your entire life, but not me.
Dead. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Not
sketch
me.
is the new improv.
It's just.
That's what everyone's
Gone
saying.
lower down the.
Such great actors, and none of the lines are forced. It's amazing. Just what a watch. I would watch absolute seconds of it, me. Anyway.
So you're a fan. Let's go. You're a fan.
This week, MPs, Brexit. This is what I wanted to get into. MPs voted for the withdrawal with the withdrawal bill this week, 330 to 231. They voted against a new clause 10 by 344 to 254. The new clause would have required the government to seek negotiations continuing full membership of the EU's Erasmus and education and youth programs. Now, what do we think of Erasmus?
Should I fill that one?
I went on an Erasmus program. Probably more qualified than me.
Yeah, it's absolutely valuable. I mean, it encourages study and political and cultural exchange across Europe. I made great use of it, and I'm glad I did.
Where'd you go?
I was in Italy and Spain. I went to Bologna and Valencia, studied over there. There were a lot of Spanish students mostly interested in getting drunk. I mean, that's also what I was doing, I suppose, but I did at least attempt to speak other languages while I was doing it. And I took money from the EU happily to help me do it. Money that, I'll never have to give back. It just, boom, there you go. Great, good thing that should be encouraged, and it would be a great shame to let it go.
I think it's incredibly important that people should be given the opportunity to learn about other cultures as deeply as possible.
Well, it helps us also gain highly trained and educated immigrants to this country, because people come from the EU here to the UK to study and fall in love with the UK and want to live here.
Absolutely. And personally, I don't think it should just be sequestered to one languages students either. I think there should be more opportunities in other degrees to do it, because regardless of whether it's even like directly appropriate for your degree, like learning about another culture is so important.
Why?
Because it gives you a broader world view and helps you understand further issues, geopolitical or otherwise, that other people other than yourself have to face, which I think is of paramount importance, just generally.
Yeah.
And the Europeans, I think we can all agree, better at lovemaking.
I mean, we are Europeans.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm already there. The continent.
The bloody Europeans. Like us.
Yeah.
I assume you didn't do geography at university.
No.
What did you do at university? I don't care.
Modern languages.
No. I was going to make it a thing, but I don't want to. MPs also this week, they voted against Amendment 4 of Clause 37 of the Withdrawal Agreement Bill by 348 to 252. That would have protected the rights of unaccompanied child refugees to be reunited with their families after Brexit. Now, this is along with the Dubs, whatever the fucking thing was from a couple of years ago, with regards to bringing a certain amount of child refugees every year. Now, I'm not going to ask whether or not you believe that child refugees should be reunited with their families. You fucking should. Simple as that. Why have the government voted against this? Is this one of their negotiating tools? Is this one of the things, like if you give us this, then we'll allow children to be reunited with their parents? Is it just because they're fundamentally evil? What's the thought? What's the reasoning? Anyone? Someone?
I haven't a clue. I can't see possibly what would be negative about encouraging this. I mean, I don't know if it's some like disgraceful anti-immigration.
Well, it'll be bringing the family over to here.
Yeah, and people saying, I think it's fundamentally based in racism and xenophobia, and people thinking, I've been on a waiting list for a council home for 3 years, and suddenly the Ahmed family is moving in, who've come from war-ravaged parts of the world, and I want my council house. I don't know. I see no reason why it shouldn't be encouraged. And I don't understand the political kudos available for denying.
Is the point that they're voting against sort of withholding children going back to their own families, and they're using that as a bargaining chip?
Well, no, it's because once the child refugee is here, they get to stay here.
Okay.
And they're unaccompanied, and really, you should say, right, you're an unaccompanied child refugee. Maybe we should let your fucking family come over, your parents or something, so that you're not going to be alone. So instead, we're saying, no, you can't do that. What we're going to do is we're going to put you into an unsafe environment, potentially put you into some form of Hunger Games, but with more rape, so the MPs have something to do on their time off.
It's like public school education then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Boris will be all for it.
As we know, MP does stand for mostly paedophiles.
Ending on a high.
I really hope one of them sues me. That's libel. I didn't mean you. I said mostly.
That would be a great marketing tool.
Well, that's the main reason, mate. That's the main reason. I mean, imagine how many people would fucking watch this if I was fucking sued by someone like Marc Francois. The worst thing about Brexit is hearing about Marc Francois or any of these people that we should John Redwood, Swathe, all of these people that we should never have fucking heard of. And now I know all of them. The only time we should have heard of fucking Marc Francois should be at the front page of a Sun exclusive where someone overheard him saying he could take a lion with his bare hands. That's the only time we should have heard of him. He's a fucking knobhead. I'm gonna climb up to the top of Big Ben and I'm gonna fucking bang it and make it ding. He's a knobhead, absolute fucking fat sausage twat.
Has enough been made of the fact that the word "cum" is in Dominic Cummings' name? I don't think enough attention's been given to that.
I'm happy there's not enough attention, because I'll be honest with you, if I go to a comedy night and that's what they're chucking at me, I'm going to take the stage. That is the level that you'd have to. It's got Cummings in it. Sounds a lot like Lemmings.
Yep.
Lemmings covered in cums.
Yeah, no, I think. I think we should keep it in to make a point.
Yeah, I think we should make more of it. Actually.
Yeah.
Let's do a good
really
5 minutes.
Flog that
good
coming
5 minutes.
horse.
5 minutes of yous lot going, and it's got Cummings in it.
I think easily more than 5
come like
minutes.
jizz.
Easily more than 5
just
minutes.
Wept. You've not got any other news stories before I go over to the ones that I want to go to?
Well, we don't have to do Meghan and Harry, do we?
Nope. No. We're not. We're simply not doing it.
Cool.
Excellent.
That's fine.
Yeah. Cool. Let's not. I'm sorted then.
No,
cool. Research by the Resolute Foundation has shown that the HMRC inspectors are only catching 1 in 8 companies that are paying less than minimum wage. It's been estimated that there are 11,000 firms have failed to pay the minimum wage in 2018 to 19. So what we're looking at is in April we're going to see a rise of 6.4% of the minimum wage is going to go up. So there's a worry that we're going to see even more companies who are breaking the law. Now, the HMRC only finding 1 in 8. That's not good. Is there an underfunding of the HMRC, and should that money go to stopping this, or should, if we are going to fund the HMRC more, should that money be going elsewhere for inspectors to do other things?
I mean, I can only speak, I can speak slightly personally from this perspective, because I've worked for 1 or 2 companies whom I won't name who have, sort of flouted with that a little bit, and I'm saying that it shouldn't be flouted with, for example, doing trial shifts and stuff like that, which you should reasonably be paid for. When you do a full day's work, you should absolutely be paid for it. I can need more than one hand to count the number of times I've done that, and always feeling cheated after it. Speaking personally from it, I think there should be more that should be done about it, and there should be more policing of companies that flout that rule. That's just my personal perspective on it.
I mean, I imagine the MRC's sort of attitude is they have a certain budget and they assign resources based on yield. What amount of tax dodging and how can they recoup money back into the public purse as often as possible? That's got to be their major goal, right? So this is always going to be an underfunded and under-resourced area. Absolutely, it should be stamped down on, particularly as the minimum wage is growing and the living wage is only getting higher. It should be a part. It should be a part of companies' policy. It's fundamentally disgusting. But also, is there not the onus not to victim blame or place it at the door of workers, but people should be fully educated on their working rights and should have clear, transparent avenues through which to report
Also,
their
that would be an argument of more unions, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
doesn't have to be unions, but trade organisations that encourage labour rights. And
There should
everyone
also be,
clued
I
up
think,
on what
like
the
a
rights are.
union.
Not
I know for a
necessarily.
I know for a fact that, like, I know at school, like, we weren't necessarily tooled up with all the appropriate sort of HMRC jargon. Like, I think schools should be teaching, like, financial responsibility more closely, so that people, when they go into the workplace and they actually go out on their own, they can be able to make decisions like that. Like, with stuff like that, there are certain industries which, and I don't see this changing for a while until fundamental change takes place, really, that are a complete Wild West in that regard. Like, a lot of creative industries, for example, are a complete and utter
You're
Wild
looking
West.
at a lot more of companies like hairdressers, car washes, these type of places. They're rife for this.
But also small
Absolute
businesses.
right.
But
Yeah,
also
small
the
business.
spine of the economy.
Yeah.
It's also it can also be companies that you might see on TV whose credit may appear on the screen, who seem very sanitized. Oh, they're appearing on TV. Like, they're probably perfectly all right.
Give us names. Give us names.
I'm not going to give you names.
Destroy your career.
I'm not going to do that.
In one breath.
No, I'm not gonna
Whisper
do
it
that.
to me, and I'll say it. I don't have a fucking career.
No, I'm not going to do
I went
that.
after Chortle yesterday for spelling my fucking name wrong. They blamed it on Next Up. Oh, this is what they got through to me. 2 asterisks in fuck. That's what they put. 2 asterisks in fuck. What the fuck is wrong with that? It's madness. I mean, you have to put 1 because people are pussy little cunts, but fucking 2 of them. Jesus Christ. Could be any word.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't have been clear.
Fucking useless bastards.
Yeah.
Right, we're heading towards the end of this, so anything to plug?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Look into the camera for that bit.
Well, our sketch out Freudian Nips, of whom, you know, Ash is a massive fan.
Big
clearly.
fan.
Yeah.
Big fan.
He also loves sketch comedy a
yeah,
lot,
yeah.
let's remember that,
We've
and
got-
improv.
that
He's
should be the main
spoken
takeaway.
very highly of both those art forms in the past,
Yeah.
and I'm sure he'll continue to.
So
I said plug, not opinion.
we've got a new hour debuting on the 28th of Feb at the Etc. Theatre.
This will be called a very serious sketch show.
So we'll have several of those running over the coming months, and then we've got a run at the Camden Fringe from the 19th to the 22nd of August.
And that will be another running of a very cheesy sketch show, and it'll be an updated version of similar things we've done before, but hopefully funnier and better.
Cool. Final pieces of news. Boris Johnson has said that the government are investing record sums in education, but according to figures from the IFS, total school spending per pupil in England is 8% lower than it was in 2010, so he's a lying cunt. Twitter is adding new settings for conversation participants. There'll be 4 options: global, group, panel, and statement, which could or potentially could not make things even worse on Twitter. Uri Geller is being mental. He said that he would...
What year is it?
Well, he's put his name forward for a role in Boris Johnson's administration, saying that he could help with both Brexit trade negotiations and
Maybe the spoons.
also doing a peace deal between the US and Iran.
Britain spoons are too straight.
I will make Syria disappear.
Normally, I'll be honest, normally my guests don't get involved in this point, mainly because they get that they're not going to be able to do a topper to actual news, but God loves a trier. And Northern Ireland's devolved government is coming back again after Sinn Féin and DUP have agreed a new deal to come back, which is a good thing until, of course, the border comes across the Irish Sea and troubles come back. And finally, and I find this fascinating, we should have spoken about it, but we didn't have time, what with all of the great news stories that we covered today. DNA testing company 23andMe has sold the rights to a new drug that it is developed using its customers' data. That is fucking fascinating, but we don't have the time for it. So I want to thank me guests and goodbye.
Ta-ta.